There is a moment in many narcissistic relationships that changes everything. It is the moment when the narcissist realizes that you are no longer the same person they first met. You are no longer easily manipulated by guilt, fear, intimidation, or false promises. You have started asking questions instead of accepting excuses. You have stopped chasing their approval. You are becoming emotionally independent, and that is one of the greatest threats a narcissist can face. A narcissist does not seek relationships built on equality, mutual respect, or emotional safety. Instead, they often seek relationships where they can maintain control. Control gives them a sense of security because it allows them to shape the narrative, influence your emotions, and keep the focus on their needs. When you begin to reclaim your confidence, your clarity, and your ability to think for yourself, the balance of power starts to shift. That shift can be deeply unsettling for someone who depends on control to feel emotionally stable. Many people mistakenly believe that a narcissist wants a strong, confident partner. They may admire those qualities in the beginning because strength, kindness, intelligence, or success can make them look better by association. But admiration can quickly turn into resentment when those same qualities make it harder to manipulate you. The very characteristics they once praised may become the ones they criticize. They may accuse you of changing, becoming selfish, acting cold, or thinking you are better than everyone else. In reality, you may simply be developing healthier boundaries and refusing to tolerate behaviors that once left you confused or emotionally exhausted. One of the clearest signs that a narcissist feels threatened is when your emotional reactions begin to change. In the past, a harsh comment may have caused you to apologize. Silent treatment may have made you chase after them. A dramatic argument may have pulled you into defending yourself for hours. But when you become stronger, you stop responding in predictable ways. You recognize manipulation for what it is. You pause before reacting. You no longer feel responsible for fixing every conflict or proving your worth. This emotional steadiness removes the leverage that once gave the narcissist a sense of power. Your strength also exposes something the narcissist works very hard to hide: their insecurity. While narcissistic behavior often appears confident, entitled, or even fearless, it can mask a fragile sense of self that depends heavily on validation and control. When you stop providing endless reassurance or emotional compliance, it can challenge the image they have carefully constructed. Rather than reflecting on their own behavior, they may project blame onto you because accepting responsibility would require confronting painful feelings they are determined to avoid. This is why becoming emotionally stronger often changes the dynamic so dramatically. It is not simply that you are saying no more often. It is that your identity is no longer organized around managing someone else's emotions. You begin making decisions based on your own values instead of their approval. You trust your own perceptions instead of constantly doubting yourself. That inner confidence makes manipulation far less effective. Strength in this context does not mean becoming angry, aggressive, or emotionally distant. It means remaining grounded in reality even when someone tries to distort it. It means recognizing that you do not have to earn respect by sacrificing your well-being. It means understanding that healthy relationships do not require you to abandon yourself in order to keep someone else comfortable. When a narcissist realizes they can no longer control your emotions, your choices, or your sense of self, they often recognize that the relationship has fundamentally changed. The strategies that once worked no longer produce the same results. And for someone who relies on manipulation as a primary way of maintaining power, that realization can feel like a significant loss. Your growing strength is not the problem. It is the evidence that you are reclaiming your emotional freedom, and that is something manipulation has a much harder time reaching. One of the most significant turning points in a narcissistic relationship is the moment the narcissist realizes that you are no longer responding the way you once did. This realization rarely happens all at once. Instead, it develops through a series of small changes in your behavior that, taken together, signal that their influence over you is fading. To someone who relies on manipulation and control, these changes are impossible to ignore. One of the first signs is that you stop seeking their validation. In the past, you may have spent enormous amounts of energy trying to earn their approval. You explained yourself repeatedly, apologized even when you had done nothing wrong, and worked tirelessly to prove your loyalty. Every compliment from them felt like a reward, while every criticism felt devastating. Over time, however, something begins to shift. You realize that their approval is inconsistent and often depends more on their emotional state than on your actual behavior. Instead of chasing validation, you begin trusting your own judgment. This quiet confidence immediately changes the dynamic. Another sign is that you no longer react emotionally to their provocations. Narcissists often learn which buttons to push because emotional reactions give them valuable information. Whether you become angry, defensive, guilty, or anxious, your reaction confirms that they still have the ability to influence your emotional state. As you grow stronger, you begin recognizing these patterns. Rather than arguing endlessly or trying to convince them of your intentions, you respond calmly or choose not to engage at all. Your emotional stability removes one of the most powerful tools they once relied upon. The narcissist may also notice that you have stopped over-explaining yourself. People who have experienced manipulation often feel compelled to justify every decision, fearing criticism or punishment. But emotional growth teaches you that healthy boundaries do not require lengthy explanations. You become comfortable saying, "That doesn't work for me," or simply declining a request without carrying unnecessary guilt. This shift communicates something important. You no longer believe they are entitled to control your choices. Another powerful indicator is your willingness to spend time away from them without anxiety. In the past, distance may have filled you with worry about their reactions or whether the relationship would survive. As your confidence grows, you reconnect with friends, family, hobbies, work, and personal goals. Your life begins expanding beyond the relationship. The narcissist notices that they are no longer the center of your emotional world. For someone who expects constant attention and prioritization, this independence can feel deeply threatening. They also recognize that you are beginning to trust your own perceptions. Narcissistic manipulation often depends on creating confusion. They may deny events, rewrite conversations, minimize your experiences, or suggest that you are overly sensitive. Over time, many people begin doubting their own memory and instincts, but healing restores your confidence in your own reality. You stop accepting distorted explanations simply because they come from someone who speaks with certainty. Instead, you believe what you have seen, heard, and experienced. This makes gaslighting far less effective. The narcissist may respond by increasing their efforts to regain control. They may become unusually charming, showering you with affection or making promises of lasting change. At other times, they may become more critical, attempting to undermine the confidence you have worked so hard to rebuild. These dramatic shifts often reveal that they recognize something important has changed. Their usual strategies are no longer producing the same results because your emotional foundation has become much stronger. Perhaps the clearest sign of all is that you stop living in fear of losing them. This does not mean you stop caring about the relationship. It means your sense of worth no longer depends on whether they stay or leave. You understand that peace, dignity, and emotional safety matter more than keeping a relationship alive at any cost. Once that fear disappears, the narcissist loses one of the strongest forms of leverage they once held. They realize that intimidation, guilt, and emotional pressure are no longer enough to keep you under their influence. And that recognition often marks the beginning of a completely different phase in the relationship. When a narcissist realizes